Alright, welcome back guys. So this is part 2 of our notes on chapter 5. So today we're going to talk about the Senate and the committees in Congress, looking at the other branch of the lawmakers, as well as some of the smaller groups within that talk about different ideas for laws and how we can best help the country. Alright, so let's make sure you have your note guide out, follow the major headings that'll guide you through the notes of what I'm going to talk about here with this video. And write down what you think is important. Right? So let's jump in. So the Senate is the area of the Congress that we call the upper house. It's made up of a much smaller group of people, so 100 members, remember 2 from every state, totally equal representation. It's not based on population at all. Every state is treated the same in this one. These senators are elected to a longer term of office, so they get 6 years in the Senate. They represent the entire state. Since there's 2 from every state, they're not representing a smaller district within the state. They represent the entire state in their interests. But also, since they're elected for 6 years, they're less tied to trying to complete work that their state is really interested in. And they can focus more on doing work and helping pass laws that's going to help the entire country. So they're doing what's best for the country now as well as leading into the future generally. Whereas with the House of Representatives being elected every 2 years, always having to be in that election cycle, they're really trying to make sure that they're doing what's important for the state and being recognized as helping their state. Senators get a little bit more time to try to work and get into some other projects. The leader of the Senate has a little different role than the Speaker of the House, the leader of the House of Representatives did. The leader is called the President of the Senate, and as you can tell by the picture here, it's led by Joe Biden, our Vice President. So that's one of the roles and jobs of a Vice President, is to be the leader of the Senate, or be referred to as the President of the Senate. Okay, so here's Joe Biden. And you can see by the map here how we break down by each state their representation in Senate. So the blue represents Democrats, the red is Republicans, and the yellow is where it's tied. Remember, 2 from every state. So if it's all blue, that means they have 2 Democrat senators. If it's all red, they have 2 Republican senators in that state. Okay, so for example, California here, blue has the D, means that it's 2 Democratic senators. Okay, Texas, red with the R, 2 Republican senators. The yellow states means it's tied, so 1 Republican, 1 Democrat. Or it could be that there's a third party or an independent party represented there as well. As you can see with Maine here, up in the northeast, it says it's tied. It's a Republican and an independent. Vermont, right there, a Democrat and an independent. And you can see kind of the general areas of the country that each party tends to win. It's just kind of interesting. A lot throughout the South, except for Florida, tends to be a very Republican. Through the Midwest, generally is pretty Republican. The East and West Coast are generally pretty Democratic. Alright, so back to the President of the Senate. As I said, it goes to the Vice President. He is not considered a senator. He does not have nearly as much power or influence in the Senate as the Speaker of the House does. He only gets to vote if there's a tie. So if 50 vote one way and 50 vote another, then he would step in to break the tie on a vote for a law. He doesn't have to in that case. If he decides to abstain or to hold out from the vote, they would send it back, talk about it a little bit more, and try to have a revote among themselves. So it's his choice to step in and do that or not. However, the Vice President's a really busy guy. This isn't his only job. He has lots of different responsibilities, different things that the President asks him to help out with or go talk to people about. So if he's away, somebody else has to stand there as the President of the Senate, and fill his role of making sure that they're following along with the schedule, moving through certain topics and deciding which laws should be brought up for debate and discussion. So the person that fills in is known as the president pro tempore. Okay, pro tempore means for the time being, an old Latin phrase. So currently it's Patrick Leahy. Okay, since 2012 he's been the new president pro tempore. So besides the fact that he helps lead the Senate and carry them through with the day-to-day tasks, he also is the next in line behind the Speaker of the House to take over for the president. So should there be an extreme disaster, president passes away, vice president passes away, and then the Speaker of the House, if he should happen to pass away, then the president pro tempore is the one that would take over. So Patrick Leahy would be fourth in line for presidency. So a pretty important position that gets voted on just in case some terrible thing should happen. Alright, so then the next important thing that we need to look at and consider is the fact that we don't speak about every law and bill together as an entire group of people. It would be slow and counterproductive to bring up every new idea or every law and discuss it together as an entire group. So what they have within the Senate and the House of Representatives is called committees. Smaller groups of people that meet and are more so experts on certain topics and talk about bills before they're brought up for complete debate with the House. Look at what kind of needs are there for specific topics in the country. So certain committees might have special topics that people are interested in. Maybe it's homelessness. It could be, how does the government pay off the debt? What are the best ways that we can help the military be more successful? How do we keep kids off street drugs? Things like that. Okay. Further, there's specific standing committees. That means groups that talk about the same topic all the time, no matter what. Those ones stick around. Sometimes committees change depending on the needs of the country. Standing committees will always be there. So they have a specific interest that they're focusing on. In the House, there's 19 standing committees, so topics and groups that meet all the time. In the Senate, there's 21. Every senator and every representative will serve on at least one committee. Many of them serve on lots of committees. I'm going to give you just a quick glimpse here. So this web page, this pulls up for me successfully, will take us to some of these standing committees. I'll try to zoom in for you here. So we can see this list of the standing committees here, and if you click onto any of them, it'll actually take you to the web page for that committee. Hopefully this loads for me. And they update this and keep it loaded with news and what's happening and what they're talking about. The government has to be very transparent. That is, they have to be very visible and show you what they're working on, what they're talking about. So in the news here, it'll talk about some of the major things that's happening for them. I just clicked on the commerce, science, and transportation one. So that's something that they would talk about frequently. So featured legislation, so these are the major bills or possible laws that they're talking about right now. You can click in and look for more. You can actually look at specific hearings and see when they're going to talk about these topics. So if there's something that you were really interested in, you can follow along and see when they're going to be discussing these things. And it's even possible to go and watch and view it if you were really so interested. Okay. Now, another important thing before we go here is just the fact that these committees serve a great purpose in that they narrow down the topic and they work out a lot of the problems with the possible laws before it ever goes to a full vote. So if a committee decides that a bill or a law is a bad idea, they could vote no, and it's almost certain then that it's not going to get passed as a law. In fact, many times it may not ever even get to the floor to be heard by everybody else. If they decide that something's a bad idea, they could pass that information on to the Speaker of the House or the President of the Senate, and they could then decide, well, we're not going to talk about this, or we'll push it to the back of the line so that it doesn't get talked about for quite some time. All right, so that's where we'll hold with a look at the Senate committees, and we'll see you on the next one as we look at the powers and limitations of Congress. Make sure to take the quiz questions that go along with this one. Use your notes, use your book if you must. Go back and rewatch this if there's anything that you feel like you missed if I moved too fast. And have a great day. We'll see ya.